I've spent years crawling into the stone throats of caves most people wouldn't dare to glance at twice. People hear cave rescue diver and imagine heroic swims through clear water, light dancing off walls like a documentary. The truth? It's closer to being buried alive. Every surface squeezes, every inch of rock wants you stuck. The dark isn't just absence of light, it's thick, pressing, a grave you breathe inside. We don't go down there for beauty. We go because someone else thought they could handle it. Thrill seekers, tourists, amateurs who follow the rope until it ends and then keep going. Some make it back on their own. Most don't. That's when I get called in. I've dragged bodies wedged so tight their skin peeled against the limestone. I've hauled men clawing at my mask, convinced they were drowning while air still hissed through the regulators. I thought I'd seen it all. Panic, claustrophobia, corpses that looked like they were screaming long after death. But last night, in a system locals whispered was alive, I learned how wrong I was. The cave itself seemed to breathe, pulling us in, pushing us out. And what waited inside wasn't just another body. The call came just after midnight. The kind that buzzes against your skull before your brain is ready. A group of amateurs hadn't returned from a limestone system 30 miles out of town. Nothing unusual about that until the Rangers report added one detail. People who went missing there were rarely recovered. Locals said the cave moved you around. Some caves are deep, others are narrow. This one, they said, didn't just swallow you. It shifted, as if the rock itself breathed. When we arrived, the Rangers didn't bother hiding their expressions. They already looked like they were waiting for body bags. One of them, an older man with a face creased like dried leather, pulled me aside. He told me the cave exhaled. At first I thought he meant air vents or trick acoustics, but then he described it. Currents that pushed and pulled without a river feeding them, without tides. Breaths. That word stuck. Our team that night was small. Fewer divers, less noise, less risk. Commander Harris led, square jaw, former military diver, the type who stayed calm no matter how bad it got. His voice was always clipped, like orders were his native tongue. Then there was Leon, young, solid diver, plenty of logged hours, but rescues are different from recreation, and I could see nerves gnawing at him. His fingers never stopped adjusting his gear, weight belt up, then down, straps tightened, then loosened. He wanted to look ready, but his eyes betrayed him. We prepped in silence under the Rangers' lanterns. Our full-face masks carried radios so we could talk in the dark, though Leon was still getting used to speaking through plastic instead of rubber. Each of us carried a spare mask and regulator. If we found survivors, or if someone panicked hard enough to rip their own air out, we needed options. The medics on the bank hovered near their kits, whispering like they didn't expect to be needed. I could tell they were hoping for nothing more than a long, wasted night. But then, the distress call was replayed. Static, muffled by stone and water, but human. 3 voices crying. One, sharper, frantic. Don't bring it back out with you. We didn't understand it. Delirium, maybe? A hallucination born of panic. Still, the words lingered as Harris laid out the plan. Entrance is tight, he said, shining his lamp on the jagged hole in the rock. Single file. 40 meters in, it twists into the maze. That's our target. Stay on the line. Watch your oxygen and depth. If visibility drops, stop. Don't wander blind. Lose the line, call it. Leon nodded too fast, like he was rehearsing. Harris didn't look at me. He didn't have to. We'd both done this dance before. Then, we lowered ourselves into the water. One moment, there was sky and lantern light. The next, everything shrunk into limestone throat and black water. The rope led forward, taut, our only salvation. Behind us, the rangers and medics stayed in the world of air. Ahead, we slipped into the maze. The limestone closed in fast. My light cut barely 10 feet ahead, painting walls jagged and wet, swallowing each beam in silt. The ceiling pressed low enough that my tank scraped, metal grating against rock like a warning. The guidelines stretched under my gloves, taut and reassuring, the only thing anchoring us in a world where up and down didn't matter. Leon followed close behind, Harris bringing up the rear. We moved like a chain, deliberate, each kick measured. The passage narrowed until I had to twist sideways just to slip through. Rock pressed my chest, floor grinding my knees. My arms were pinned. The only movement was one hand forward, then the other. Halfway through, my fin snagged. A sharp tug locked me in place. Panic pounded against my ribs, whispering the truth every diver fears. If I die here, I die stuck. I forced out a slow breath, shrinking my chest just enough to slide free. Limestone scraped skin raw through my suit. The movement stirred up clouds of silt, and in seconds, my light vanished into brown, choking dark. That was when I felt it. A drag across my shoulders. Smooth, deliberate. Not rock. For a heartbeat, I thought Leon had caught up, reaching to steady himself. But Leon was 30 feet back. Harris farther still. No one else should have been there. The tunnel spat me into a chamber wide enough to stretch my arms. Relief flickered until my beam swept the walls. Long, curved gouges carved into the stone. Too clean for erosion, too deep for accident. I drifted closer, sliding my thumb into one. The edges were smooth, polished like something had pressed hard, again and again. Then came the sound. Knock. 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 Hollow, deliberate, echoing across the chamber. I froze. Light cutting wild arcs across the black water, but there was no hand, no tool, no diver that could explain it. "Marks on the wall," I said into the comms, voice rasping in my own ears. Static swallowed me before Harris's calm reply bled through. "Copy that. Could be old. Keep moving." I wanted to believe him, but I'd seen gouges before. Scrapes from tanks, fins, careless divers. These were different. They looked fresh. I pushed forward. The chamber funneled upward into a narrow shaft, bubbles slipping toward an air pocket. I rose slow, broke the surface, and found myself in a bubble chamber no bigger than a closet. The air smelled sour, thick with rot. My headlamp haloed beads of condensation trembling on the ceiling. That's when I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Wet, ragged, just beyond the reach of my light. "Hello?" My voice came muffled through the mask. For a moment, I thought I saw a fog bloom on the rock, as though someone else had exhaled. But the sound faded, sliding away. I sank back down, rejoined the line, and drifted deeper. The passage tightened again, before spilling into another chamber. That's where I saw him. The first body. Jammed half into a fissure, twisted wrong, mask flooded. His suit bore deep scratches, gouges ripped clean through neoprene. The helmet, too, scoured by arcs like claws. Not fingernails, not panic. Something had dragged him. "Command, I have got one body," I said flatly. Harris answered, "Secure if you can. Survivors first." I pulled the bag from my pack, numb fingers working to free him. That's when I felt the tug on my fin, hard, sudden. My light swung wild across water and stone, but nothing was there. Silt rose in choking clouds. I left the body. I was led. My job was forward. The shaft narrowed again, before opening into another bubble chamber. My light found pale skin huddled against the rock. Movement. A man wedged onto a ledge, lips blue, eyes wide. Alive. Relief. Surged so sharp it nearly broke me. I surfaced beside him. "You're all right," I said, forcing calm. "We're getting you out." He shook his head violently. His lips trembled words. At first, too soft. Then I caught them. "It followed us in. It doesn't let go. Don't take me back out." Delirium, I told myself. Hypothermia. But the way he clawed at the stone, the way his gaze never left the water behind me, it was too much like the gouges, too much like the touch I'd felt in the tunnel. I couldn't leave him. I pressed a spare mask to his face, tightened the straps. His hands trembled so hard I had to guide them myself. "Breathe steady," I said. "Follow me."
I forced myself to move, to climb. But the survivor was nothing more than a ruined weight, trailing behind in tatters. Every kick smeared more red into the water. Every pause filled the mask with my heartbeat. Then the line trembled in my hand. At first I thought it was me shaking, but the vibration ran through the nylon, steady, deliberate. Something was touching it. My beam caught a glimpse below. A limb, long and pale, curling around the guideline. Fingers, or something like them, stroking the rope like it was prey. "No!" I whispered, voice breaking in the mask. The knocks came one final time, so close they thundered in my chest. Knock, knock, knock. The pale shape surged upward, the water heaving as if a wall of flesh pushed past. For one breathless second, I saw its outline. A body too long, joints bent wrong, limbs dragging against the rock as though it crawled and swam at once. The head turned, smooth and featureless, but I felt it looking at me. I tore upward, lungs burning, hands locked on the line. I didn't look back. Not when the silt stormed, not when the knocks followed me like a heartbeat in the stone. I dragged the survivor's shredded remains with me because letting go felt like an invitation. The only thought that kept me moving was that daylight was close. If I slowed, if I turned, the cave would keep me too. Daylight shimmered faint above, a pale blur bleeding through the water. My hands locked tighter on the line, dragging the ruined body behind me inch by inch. Every kick felt like punishment. every pause like an invitation for the thing below to surge back. My lungs ached from the slow climb, but panic pressed harder than pressure. At last, the surface broke over me. I erupted into the open air, gasping through the mask, voice ragged as I screamed into the comms. Not procedure, just everything at once. Leon's gone. Survivor's gone. Something's in there. Hands pulled me onto the bank. Medics rushed in, their faces blanching when they saw what I carried. There wasn't much left of the survivor. Torn neoprene, flesh like ribbons. The water around me still bloomed faintly red. Command didn't believe the details. Not the hand I saw stroking the guideline. Not the knocks that followed us, or the pale outlines circling in the haze. But they didn't need to. The blood cloud told its own story. By morning, orders came down. Seal the cave. Every connected shaft marked for closure. Officially, the cave was too unstable, too dangerous. Unofficially, Harris never came back out. He followed after Leon and vanished. MIA on paper, but I know better. I still dive rescues. It's all I know. But now, if I see gouges in stone, if currents shift without reason, if the dark begins to knock, I don't go in. I call it a lost cause and pray whoever's inside finds their own way, because some caves don't just hold the dead, they keep something else. I tell myself it was just one cave, one system sealed, one horror buried. But every time I strap on the mask, every time I touch the line and feel the stone press close, I remember. The knocks, the gouges, the way the water itself seemed alive. If you ever hear it, if you ever feel the cave breathing around you, don't follow, don't answer, because once it knows you, it won't let go. We are the voices that warn you. We are the echoes that remain when the dark takes the rest. And if you keep listening long enough, you'll understand what the survivors tried to say. Some echoes never fade. The end.